morning. Lots of blessings, lots of love. Thanks for clicking the play button or download button if you downloaded it. You know you can download this podcast, right? You can go right on the website. You're on gutinstinctspod.com. Go to Gut Instincts Podcast and download it. You can download it as a tiny little audio file, and you can listen to it, stop it, or delete it, or I don't know, make a song out of it. I don't know. Anyways, hey, thanks for hanging out. It's Gut Instincts Podcast. Can you hear me okay? Do I sound alright? Okay. It's been an interesting week. I hope you had a great week. I hope yours was awesome, full of abundant love and fun times, and yeah. So I had an interesting week. I had to find a new home for a dog that I had, which is not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. It needs a yard. It needs a yard. Any of you dog owners who know, if you have a yard, you'll probably understand what I'm talking about. So, it's awesome to know that she's going to go into a yard, a home with a yard. That's what's cool. But, today is a really cool episode. If you can hear me, I'm already sort of breaking my medicine up here. I've got something called lemon Jeffrey. It's so lemony. Of course, grown organically with no sprays, so you really can tell the difference. How I can usually tell right while just looking. When there's sprays being put on the sprayed on the actual medicine itself, it's got those trichomes, which we've talked about before in the other episodes. If you want to listen to it, you can go ahead. The trichomes are the little part that holds the medicine, right? So if you look up trichome, it's actually just a little granular secretion almost. It's like a fat glob that is located outside of plants. So when I say plants, I don't just mean cannabis. I also mean the essential oils, like mint. When you take a mint leaf and you rub a mint leaf. Okay, that's why they tell you to break up or cut or smash to get the flavors out, to get the aroma, right? The reason why you're doing that is because you're actually breaking into those trichomes, busting them out. They're exploding, and everything that's inside is coming out. So that's your essential oils. That's your terps, as people like to call them. Which I guess is alright. Slang name people throw around, don't really know exactly what it is. Even I don't really know the beautiful abilities of terpenoids. So terpenoids are like everything that sort of your essential oils, your stuff that gives you the relaxing feelings. Why? Basically, it all has to do with our sensors. It has to do with our central nervous system. It has to do with how smells alter our feelings, alter our thoughts. So yeah, we're just a big ball of sensors. If I didn't say that already, if we didn't get into that. So while we do that, I want you to hopefully smile, and hopefully your sensor is doing swell today. And happy Friday. This is Gut Instincts Podcast. Yeah, we're going to talk about gut microbes. That's what we're going to talk about. So, might be a short one. We might go off a little bit. But, as of right now, we're just going to light this medicine up. So, I hope you are too. And here we go. Boom, boom. Alright, so, thanks for hanging out. My name is RJ. You probably already know that. This is Gun and Six Podcast. This is my podcast. This is my show. It's not like your normal podcasts. Or, that again, is our podcast normal? I don't think so. I think every podcast is its own little entity, its own little world, its own little life. That's why when you meet others who are listening to the same podcast, it's actually pretty cool. You sort of excuse me. Sort of end up in a in the same world, you know? In the same world. Just so you know, I'm kind of a big proponent on, like, you know those coughing fits, right? That people can have when they smoke? It's not really supposed to happen like that. Like, that's not sort of saying something's wrong, something's irritating. I'll blame this on my glass, but basically what, you know, when you see people taking huge dab globs of concentrate and stuff like that, and they're just coughing their eyes off, like their face off, yeah, it's not really supposed to happen that way. There's definitely a trigger, which is interesting. There's like a normal or a sort of a standard cough, and then there's like one that just doesn't make any sense. And the reason why I say this, because I'm talking to you from experience, okay? I literally experienced 2 different coughs, probably multiple different kinds, but you can tell when something is causing you to cough negatively or on that spectrum, it's not really beneficial to you, or something's causing you to cough that's beneficial to you. And what I mean by that is by, like, for example, you'll hear a lot of people talk about how the coughing is actually associated to cleansing out, which I definitely will agree with. The coughing helps clear out anything that's within your throat, anything that's within your lungs. It's quite nice, right? But not the coughing because you sprayed chemicals or pesticides on the herb. Now, I don't mean to get into that a lot. It's just it's a problem, and it's like when you're using cannabis as a medicine, it's essentially like your only medicine, and no one's really got your back in that sense, except for the ones who are growing or the ones who you know who are growing and not spraying. It feels a little daunting, right? It feels like you're up against the world. It feels like nobody gets it. It feels like everyone's against you. But I'm sure many of you feel that way about all sorts of different things, right? See, this kind of lumps into just the acceptance, right? Acceptance is something. You know, but it's somewhat of a shitty feeling when you have to think to yourself, you know, I hope I can consistently get healthy medicine so I can stay healthy and live a not a painful life, right? Because when you shift away from the Western medicine and you sort of drop out from your synthetics and you're not really using those anymore, because those work. I mean, they work in a sense that they, you know, they're in a lab and they're doing their thing and they're messing with chemicals, and we are chemical bodies, right? So I'm not saying this stuff doesn't do stuff to you. It's just you know, the synthetic, it's a different world. It's a different world, and I think we're learning it. And I think, although we, you know, with all the confidence it seems that we have, and all the knowledge that we have here in the Western. I say the Western society of thinking. I just mean the kind of the non-traditional natural way of healing, right? What was I getting at? Well, basically, what I'm getting at is when you're in the hands of like the Western doctors, you sort of feel this little comforting sense, right? You sort of feel like you're okay. It's okay. Like you can get an answer if you need to find an answer. You can call somebody, right? It's like you have that blanket that you can fall on. When you don't, or you just straight up don't believe them, that's like my case, right? And it's nothing against personal doctors, right? Like don't, like I don't want any doctors to take it personally in the egoic sense, like when I talk about specific doctors, it's like, because you know what, they're just doing their jobs, and unfortunately, that's just the way we are at right now in our sort of journey, our humanity journey, right? Obviously, some doctors are just for healing, and that's why when they find out the sort of techniques and the little slick ways that the big pharma and large, the large health industry works, they get a little wigged out, right? But those who don't, they just do their, every day. They're just there to get the paycheck, and you know what? And they're not there to question. Like, I'm not here. See, that's what we have to realize, that our little schooling system. It's not really the brainwashing of the information that's the problem. It's the conformity and the non-questioning of the information that's going on. So it's not really the type of information, right? Because, there's been plenty of information that school, you learn a lot from school. You're around a lot of your friends. You're absorbing a lot. Unfortunately, what is it called? Standard, whatever, right? Making everyone into squares. It's the conformity. And that's why I always got in trouble when I was in high school, is because I would question the teacher. And the teacher wouldn't like to be questioned. Why? Because the way it works is you don't question. You get questions that you answer, and you either get them right or wrong. If you had a teacher with an open mind, sometimes you'd get partial points. I love that, right? Partial points! Give me the partial points. I'll be honest, that's how I got through a lot. I wasn't brainiac in school, especially dealing with the Crohn's, losing a lot of time in school. I couldn't go to school a lot of the times. I was too busy in the bathroom or in pain. I remember. Here's a good story. The first incident that really hit home and really cut the cord, in the sense that it disconnected me from essentially the world and every single student or friend I thought I had. I was in school, and I think it was middle school, right? Because everything kind of bleeds together. Or maybe it was elementary. No, middle school. Yeah. So, yeah, and you're probably the first person I've ever told the story to. So feel special. I'm just kidding. Of course you're special. You're listening to this. The way it works, I'll get into the story, don't worry. Just take another hit. If not, just hang out. If not, just go. Just go. Time doesn't exist. You know what? I'm here with you, and I'm putting all my love. I know you're probably thinking, I thought he was going to talk about gut. Yeah, we'll get there. So, it was, I had been in and out of pain for some time going to the bathroom, and it's like, you don't really tell anybody, because who are you going to tell, right? It was going on for some time. I just don't remember the scheme of things, but I remember keeping it myself, and it was like every single day I was in excruciating pain, and every time you go to the bathroom, it's worse because every time you do bowel movements, you take a poop, everything is moving, everything changes, everything, and all the problems are down in the colon, right? If you know Crohn's or any IBDs, they vary, but my specific Crohn's, it's all been in my colon, essentially, right? Well, it's all over, but that's like the physical, worst you can see, I guess. So I remember, and this is company with bleeding and stuff, so this is like, it was getting weird. And I started getting this excruciating pain on my lower, like right above, like right in between the cheeks, maybe where your tailbone is, maybe lower towards the actual hole itself. And it was like, anytime I sat down, throbbing pain. Anytime I moved, throbbing pain. And I was just like, I finally couldn't take it. I think it was still pretty early morning. And I didn't say a word to the teacher. I just stood up. Well, I guess this was after, right? I stood up, and I had to walk through, like, you have the classrooms. I don't know if any of you had the classrooms with the long tables, lots of chairs. So you'd have to sort of squeeze behind 4 people to get around, to get into the little area where you just walk out. And remember, this is vague too, right? The only part mostly I remember is like the feelings. So, and I remember getting up and walking through, and I remember accidentally kind of being pushed or kind of leaning towards one area, and my butt leaned up against like the back of something else because it was such a small area. And it was so painful. Like a shock went through. Reached tip of my toes, top of my head, my hair stood up. It was one of the most excruciating pains I've ever felt. And I was feeling pretty shitty on and off, right? And so then I just, after I felt that, I walked towards my chair, and I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. And then I walked to the office, to the nurse's office, which I pretty much lived at too. The nurses were my homies. It was an abscess, to answer your question. That's what it was. So, why did I even tell you that story? Shit. I guess what I'm feeling from that story is everyone is in their own sort of little pain body, if you will. Because you can't see or experience their feelings. So just some of us are easier at hiding it, some of us aren't. Some of us want to ignore it. And essentially, I guess, when we accept the pain body and sort of find out what the root cause is, I guess we can sort of, we can sort of attack the problems. And you're thinking, how's that work? Well, it works in everyone's own consciousness. That's really what it is. So there's no, because of the fact that I can't see you, even if we hung out and I did everything I could or whatever, and you helped me everything you could, you wouldn't know, I wouldn't know unless I spoke to you, unless I regurgitated it back to you or talked to you, and that means you've got to talk to me, and that means you've got to contact me, reach out to me, create me in a sense that I can only react to what you're putting out, right? So this is why I'm the worst at this, because you're listening to an Aquarian that didn't really believe that, right? I mean, occasionally I looked at it every once in a while, but then when I figured out it's a reflection, as above, so below, I don't know. I don't think planets aren't quite exactly planets, that sort of thing. It's a reflection. So astrology and that is actually what we should follow, because that follows energies. Anyways, I guess what I mean is your exterior, the people around you and stuff, life, is only gonna react to the way that you react. So, I don't know. Take a second before you text. Make sure it's an embodiment of the person that you want to be. Same thing when you speak. That's why listening is probably more important than speaking. Sometimes I catch myself speaking too much, and then inside my head I'm like, shut up. Just shut up and listen. And I'm like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's no really out there. Right? So stop trying to talk people's head off. As I say that, I'm talking your head off. I'm talking your head off, man. Well, hey, I hope you're enjoying it, and I hope you're kicking back with maybe a J, or just, or if you want the toxin alcohol, that's cool too. Like, again, it's like, this goes back to legalizing, legalizing drugs, period. I mean, there shouldn't be any labels. The problem is a health issue. It's a health issue that we need to deal with. Anybody with addiction, anybody with, these problems. I know there's larger aspects and larger problems, and it's going to take some time, but essentially, we have to treat drug addiction and all this stuff as a mental health issue, or just a health issue in general. I mean, everything really is mental, so we have to treat the mind and body and soul as one. Or at least try to with each other, and then, hopefully we can shape the health industry and everything that's going on, too. I see something pretty wonderful happening. What I see is a broadening and opening to a new beginning, right? Although it looks chaotic and shit, and we haven't talked politics on the show. We don't need to. Maybe if somebody wants to talk politics with us sometime, we will. It's dirty out there, right? But remember, all is divine, and all's within the highest vibrational frequency. What I mean is everything's good. So, you have to see it as sort of like a show that's unfolding. Your biggest part in the show is embodying the brightest light that you can. So yeah, just staying the happiest you can, clearest minded, shooting the good vibes out. Like, don't just think. The more you think about the way a reality could break out, uh, the more apt you are to fall into that dimension. Just think of us all like as next to each other, and it's like there's this all these different dimensions you can fall into based on your frequency. So it's just like, just keep your frequency high, even if you're not like, you haven't gone down the rabbit hole and you're not manifesting anything. Outcome. Other people have outcomes. Like, don't worry about it. There's plenty of people manifesting like thoughts in the ether that will create pretty sweet, abundant life. Regardless, we got this life here. This is only the beginning, right? Because death isn't death. Death isn't really death. It's a transition. So what I want to talk to you about is something that's really interesting, that I feel interesting about. And I know a lot of people are completely against milk. And then a lot of people are for milk. And I'm really into where the milk came from. That's where it all boils down to, right? But what I want to talk to you is about the gut bacteria and why something like colloidal silver, or silver in general, doesn't destroy bad. Why it affects negative bacteria and doesn't harm or affect the beneficial bacteria, as well as human cells, right? So we have to think of these little guys as fat globs, right? So they're fat soluble, they're fat cells. That's what's in our microbes, in our gut microbes. Beneficial microbes are your lactobacillus, right? Majority. Your negative or not so good bacteria is like your strep. Interestingly enough, they're all the bacillus. Lots of bacillus, right? We talked about the Bt toxin. Bt soil bacterium. Bt Ba. Bt is used in Roundup Ready, right? Glyphosate. BC is when you get sick. BA is anthrax, right? Bacillus anthracensis. Hey, I need like probably a book of those names. I'm getting there. It takes time. Latin names are interesting. The trickery. Anyways, what I'm saying is those. Interestingly enough, that's where our problems are coming from, right? This BT from Roundup Ready and Monsanto's little shenanigans. This bacteria it's basically small, and it has a free it has an open shell, right, in its cell. Its electron is on the outside. I'm not going to say this right. I know I'm not, but I'm going to try. So things like the lactobacillus and those types of bacteria, they're surrounded by this sort of slimy fat substance that protects them, that keeps them healthy. This other bacteria doesn't have that, right? They're exposed. Their cell is exposed. So, silver, the way it works is, the key is to its orbital arrangement. Its electron orbital arrangement. Okay, so basically, what it bubbles down to is it's got this outer shell that has like one sporadic, crazy sort of movement, right? Because it's single, and it's always trying to find two to close out its to be calm. So basically, when it gets in with water, it's electrically charged, right? It disrupts the cell of the not so good negative bacteria, and it doesn't affect the lactobacillus or the beneficial bacteria because it has these protective coatings. Interestingly enough, when it does that, it actually creates this sort of a replicating situation by creating more silver ions, and then and sort of like a machine gun. So the reason why, it's so difficult to put into words, right? Because even I'm still trying to understand. But what it seems is though it has something to do with the RNA within the bacteria, because silver deactivates the coating or the reproduction. Again, don't write my words down. When you learn about things, I mean, you can do them anyway. I'm just telling you the way when you learn about things, it's like you have to compartmentalize situations or ideas, and you want to just sort of pick and choose where you're at that moment in time, and what knowledge you're at that moment in time to sort of play with. Or else you're just going to be like me and start pulling out your hair and staying up at night, wandering too much. No, I'm just kidding. Well, actually, I'm not kidding. I spend hours. But I'm on the mat right now. Boom! Gut Instincts podcast from the yoga mat. Stretching my dreadful knee out that got trashed by Humira. It wasn't until after I started Humira, that synthetic drug, injecting it into my thighs, that I started to get real joint problems. Specifically this knee. But back to the silver deactivating codes. Basically, it's like a twofer. Deactivates it, and it's like sending in the troops, letting them go crazy, and then letting them know, like, hey, these people are good. See, here's the only problem with that, though. It's not a problem, but you just have to be knowledgeable of it. And it's like when you're when you're going in, right, when you send the troops in and you clear out a situation and you clear out the bad guys, then what do you have left? You have a lot of dead bodies, don't you? Each dead body has its own just sort of stench, right? Has its own entity, had its own life. So essentially you have to filter that out. What I'm getting at is if you go too quick with the colloidal silver, or you're not sort of smart about it, or you don't really know what's going on, as we spoke about, and again, I mean, I don't expect you to really get much about, hopefully what I said helps, but we'll talk more about it. I'm reaching out to get someone who's really, who's been doing this research for some time. I've only been doing it personally, right? Passionately. You have to utilize it slow, I guess, is what I mean. If you're doing it internally. Externally, it uses, you can use it on cuts and burns and stings and stuff. Again, there's this sort of internal arrangement or something that's going on a different sort of dimension, if you will, that I probably couldn't even put my finger on. Oh boy. Nope. Probably not. So that being said, we talked before about how I've been doing the grass-fed, organic, local yogurt that's been fermented for 24 hours. And it's just, I haven't really been cheating, but it's just interesting when you, I'll do things like drink a lot of it or something, and then I'll, I don't know, just sort of feel painful. But I've also was eating these grain-free tortilla chips. Those are crunchy. Those are cool, but I emailed the company, and I wanted to know what was organic, right? Because I'm not. Excuse me. There are levels, right? Grain-free, boom, awesome. You look at the ingredients, they're all great. No fillers, no gross gums, nothing like that. Awesome. Okay, there's 2 layers. Now they have to be organic or non-GMO. Oh, it's non-GMO. Okay, well, non-GMO doesn't quite mean anything unless there's a GMO product in it. There's no GMO products in it. Okay, so they went out of their way to pay for money to put a label on it. I get it. You sell more. Or deceive me, right? No organic label. Simple ingredients. I email for the organic lists, and I get a basic email back saying that we try our best and use as much organic ingredients as possible. What the fuck is that, you guys? What is that? What is that? How many of you have emailed a company and asked them something about their product yet? If you're sitting there going, oh, never, or once or twice, I bet you I'm going to get a lot of emails. That's why I'm asking. Any product that I'm sort of going to be a cheat or something, I really go dig deep into. That message really wigged me out. Ugh. But I ate them anyways, and they're really delicious. but I'm going to go back to making my kale chips again for the crunch. It's just the crunch factor, you guys. It's just, again, it's not... You want to keep obviously your intake, and you want to be smart about what you're taking in, your vitamins, minerals, fats, all that good stuff, right? Mostly plants. Mostly plants. But, you know, with, like me, I'm big on trying to get the savory stuff, the salty. I'm really big on salty and sour. I think it has something to do with the fact that everyone's different. It goes back to your... Is it dosha energies? I think the Hindu... the concepts that we have energies, we have flames inside of us. I learned this a little bit, but then scurried away. But it's really interesting. It makes a pretty great sense, because why would somebody who's double my size and, you know, 1.5 my height need to or be alright consuming the same exact stuff that I'm consuming? I mean, I'm not saying that I, you know, haven't got torched up by the sort of toxic society we've grown up together in, but you know, our cells, if our cells replenish and everything is, it just makes sense that it's really all has to do with just the way our bodies are manifested onto this realm. Led up to that. Probably almost done. I don't know if so basically I have a bunch of yogurt, awesome yogurt, and I'm like on the fence of eating it because of how I felt. So I'm not going to do the cheat. I don't know. See, this is the dilemma I go through. And I know some of you are thinking, no dairy at all. So yeah, I'll go without it, I guess. It's not like it goes bad. I'll go without it for a week, test it out, or 2. Everything seems to move a lot better, and I seem to have a lot more energy when I have it. So I see a lot of positives, but you know, if I'm having trouble pooping and it's hurting and there's pain coming back, because there's been abscesses down there, fistulas, so I have like scars and that sort of thing. Like, you want to know. Well, you're going to know regardless if you're on this podcast. That's what you get. Too bad. Dropped it on you. Actually, pretty soon, we're going to have a pretty interesting show coming up, and it's going to be about poop. I don't know how long I'm going to talk about poop, but you sure as hell don't have to be there. But we're going to talk about it because it's a big problem. Not a big problem. It's a big shit problem. No, it's not a problem. It's just it's something that we need to talk about. Nobody talks about it, and then when someone does, it's so enlightening, and it makes a lot of people feel better because you feel like you're not alone. And although, you know, I may be alone in some of the journeys, I know I'm definitely not alone. Like, I know there's people who are dealing with what I'm dealing with, is what I'm saying. Maybe in different aspects. But the feeling is there. That's what I mean. You don't have to go through the same experience, per se, to have the same feeling. Because, like, the experience book, right? Think about the experience book. You're like, oh, here's a situational experience book. And I throw it at you. And it's like 50 pounds. And it just, boom, right on your lap. And you're just like, oh man, I do not want to read this, nor do I want to pick out an experience. Or I'm just like, or here's your feelings book. And this is just the feelings that you're going to feel that you get to pick out. So it's like, oh, okay, I can feel this way. There's really only two feelings, right? You can take the feelings one way or the other way. But when you think about it, there is only one feeling. Because, and I think that's where the key, that's what the key is. So, you know when you say something, then you drop into some feelings? That's what just happened. What I mean is, like, if something bad happens, you know, don't label it as bad. I mean, you can label it as bad, like, oh, that's not a great situation, but say, okay, but it's a learning experience. So now I have to, you know, what did I take from it? Did I learn from it? Did I even learn from it? Did I take the lesson from it, or didn't I? If I didn't, probably going to repeat in some way, shape, or form. Hey, I'm here right with you. I guess that's the key, though. Is, take all of the moments, everything that you go through, and relish in them, even if they're sad feelings, like, because there's really no sad feelings, right? Because I cry when I'm super happy and when I'm super sad. As a relatively newer experience, from open up the heart chakra. Alright, well, thanks for hanging out. Gut Instinct Podcasts. GutInstinctPod.com for your easy earlobes. That way you don't have to know my name. Hey, thanks for clicking. If you made it this far, I love you. Peace!